Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Reimagining Tech in 2022, presented by Google Cloud and ETCIO. To help IT decision makers in meeting digital transformation goals for their organizations, ET and Google Cloud have come up with an innovative series of 10 workshops around cutting edge cloud technologies. The sessions have been conceptualized keeping in mind IT leaders who are looking to gain actionable insights to support their organization's digital growth strategies. Today's workshop is on the topic Navigating the Next Frontier in Customer Experience with Conversational AI. The workshop will help you explore the unexplored levels of customer experience transformation enabled by conversational AI. Ladies and gentlemen, we will also have a Q&A session at the end of the workshop, so you can keep posting your questions and our speakers will be happy to take them up. Now let's kickstart today's event. I would like to invite Mr. Amit Choudhary, Chief Product and Technology Officer, Ecom Express, for a keynote address. Welcome, Amit. Pleasure to have you here. Over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Google and ETCIO for giving us the opportunity to talk about, a very close topic to my heart, which happens to be what happens in a digital customer service space from a standpoint of the disruptions that are happening and how the journey has been so far. So, if we go back to how it all started, the entire world and the place of customer service was largely driven by an offline model. So the world was predominantly offline, well-defined set of challenges, and organizations came up with the standard protocols to solve these things. Now, as offline transactions increased and became difficult to resolve issues in person, what happened was we moved to the model of a contact center support, which helped the companies manage their cost structure while still serving the needs of customers using very specific human-to-human interaction. Although it was taking place on voice, but it was largely driven from one endpoint, a human asking a question, another endpoint, a human responding to that as best as they could. This continued for several years before the next wave of growth happened. Again, the transaction volume started to grow further, staffing costs became a problem. So companies did not do much, but what they did was they basically saw an opportunity in moving the customer support positions to a low-cost country across the world. However, the platform and tools largely remained the same, which happens to be an interesting observation because nothing has changed so far. We are still in the offline space. The transaction volume has increased, but largely what has changed is the way we are answering the responses. The response team is no longer sitting very co-located to the area where the problem is happening, and it is being served by some agent who is handling the call far off. But it gave them an opportunity to scale another bit, right? And then they went through this entire journey as well. But what really disrupted in the last couple of decades was we saw the emergence of online space, which basically moved transactions at a very, very fast clip. And offline transactions began to move first to online, which was through web, and then to online, which was through smartphones. So these two big events are happening in the world. And now the customer support ecosystem, which is largely held on the back of a very trained workforce on an offline model, did not want to change, right? So what would have happened perfectly was we would have reinvented ourselves to cater to the changing needs of the products, the platforms, and the customers' buying behavior. But nothing of that happened. Organizations who were selling these solutions were a little bit conservative, and they wanted to leverage the existing investments, and hence looked at the problem space in a very piecemeal fashion. What it resulted in is they began to layer it up with various add-ons. What they did was they said, okay, we have a very voice-intensive ecosystem. What can we do about it? How can we scale further? They built in IVR systems that had automations to play pre-recorded messages. So they're now playing along with what can be done very, very piecemeal in a space which they know best. They started to talk about call deflection, but a lot of the call deflection is happening through a very static way of recording messages, playing it out, making sure that people who are having an issue that can have a very status oriented messaging can then be handled like that. Now, this is only going to help you a little bit because soon the scale will again go further. And that's exactly how it happened. They further went ahead and said, okay, the waiting time is definitely increasing beyond what a customer should like. It started to hit 30 minutes on an average. They went back and they did scheduled callbacks. They said, you know what, we are going to call you back. We will solve all of this problem. But then again, they were looking at it in a very internal fashion. They're only talking about how they're able to scale the need of the customer support system, largely from a standpoint of resources that were on their hand and disposal. Now, in this entire journey, nobody has truly focused on managing the support center from a customer focal lens, right? They're always looking at how to optimize from an organization standpoint, not from a customer standpoint. However, we started to enter into the smartphone era when the smartphone started to take over. Now, phone calls were getting replaced by messaging slowly but gradually. Now, this became the preferred choice of communication. The change in customer preference was happening at a very, very fast pace. That means that support platform now had to provide, in some ways, a different alternative channel, right? So they came up, they're largely forced and pushed to come up with messaging. Now, when an organization starts to take a look at messaging, they need to go through all the ambit of how do they support, whether they do short form of messaging, whether it happens on SMS system, whether it happens on email, whether they can do real-time messaging, and WhatsApp and other systems were kind of shaping place at the same point in time. A lot of different apps were also coming together. And these apps also meant the people who wanted support while they were traversing through the entire journey on the app, they needed support on the app. But that was not prevalent during that part of time. So there's a lot of back and forth that happens in a traditional customer support setup, which kind of layers more and more such tools on top of it. However, at some point in time, the market and the industry starts to settle down and they zero in on the fact that messaging does come with a lot of interesting facets. In voice, you can't do much more. And bringing automation at scale on voice becomes a very tricky play. However, when you start to take a look at messaging channel, it has a very intrinsic support built in that allows it to run automations. What happens is when you send a message, it doesn't matter whether the message is responded to you by an agent or by a chatbot or a virtual agent. And this gives birth to a new era where chatbots and virtual agents starts to pick up the work that was actually supposed to be done by real live agents, right? The handoff started to happen. Now, if you take a step back, you are still not solving the problem by actually taking a look at the entire platform and thinking it from a first principles perspective. You're not solving the problems from scratch. You are still using what is there and you're adding on top of it. Now, the goal should be rather take a holistic view. Why? Because the customer interaction touch points are all changing. When they do the journey, they have a very, very different need. The customer is becoming more and more demanding. They want information to be given to them. On the other hand, the kind of customer support system, even with messaging at that point in time, what it lacked was largely the fact that they were more responding to them after a certain period of time. Messaging meant a lot more asynchronous kind of response. That means somebody who's reach out to me will get an eventual response that may take 5 minutes or 10 minutes and they can go back and do something else. So there was some positive out of the entire transformation to the messaging ecosystem. However, it didn't really solve the scalability problem that the organizations were looking at and mesh it with the kind of experience problem that the customer was looking at. Now, the customer needed very, very small interventions at real time in the journeys that were done on the apps. So the journey cycle reduced. If you went about buying a ticket, if you went about buying anything on Amazon or any one of these different e-commerce sites, what you wanted and what was coming up, and there was a problem, you needed help at this point. And this help could be rather classified into three different stages, which you call the pre-order, in-order, and post-order issues. All of the three areas, what we were lacking was an in near real time hand holding or assisted support that a customer needed. What we were giving to them was still, if not a wait for 30 minutes upfront, it was generally happening to be a 5 or 10 minute at the point when you send a message and when you end up receiving a message. Because on both the sides, there was a person responding, right? Whether that person happened to be giving a voice command or whether that person happened to be giving a resolution that was driven on the messaging side. We were doing some sort of, I would say, optimization. A person who could handle a particular set of concurrent calls could only handle up to 30 to 40 different calls in a day. They could probably go ahead and solve 60 or 70 if messaging was going to be the center stage. However, they weren't able to solve it to the level in the sense how scale was coming together, how online journeys were becoming shorter and shorter, and how they could actually get point in time resolutions and point in time identification of the issues. So it this generally had to evolve to something where a machine has to come together. Now, the first versions of your machine learning algorithms and how chatbot had to function was very static. They basically started with the good old-fashioned AI, whereby we were looking at intents and we were looking at how we can help you traverse the entire journey. And as you went through the entire cycle, we realized that that could only help to a certain extent. However, the jump to customer conversational AI support happened rather fast. And that's where we ran into a lot of different challenges. Whether it was the offering that was being served from the standpoint of one system or the other, all of these different systems kind of brought about the same challenges. That is, the training takes a lot longer. Now, how do we do and how do we figure out on the go customer, natural language processing engines, which can actually cater to the customer as if they were being responded to by a human? The journey was still a while far away. Right, we were sitting probably on a scale of 1 to 5. In the AI journey, we were sitting at 0 to 1, and we wanted, or we actually were looking to get to a 3 or 4. That really wasn't happening at the same pace in each one of these verticalized industries. And what we observed was we needed very specific solutions whereby we could actually do a lot more thoughtful solutioning from grounds up. At that point in time, we went back to the drawing board and we said, okay, if I were to build this entire customer support stack from the beginning, how would I go about it? And what came out of this entire brainstorming exercises that went on across different startups, which are kind of challenging the status quo, was the fact that it has to be contextual. Everything needs to start from an intent. How do you take the journey from that intent forward can have different levels of deflection. The first level of deflection came about in the form of pre-canned responses that you can actually ship out. And this became really interesting. So when you talked about the FAQs, which were the frequently asked questions that a lot of the companies were putting on their websites or even giving handle on the mobile app phones, they were still pretty much static in nature. So we said, okay, if you want to do real contextual FAQs, somebody is in the journey, they are buying something, they're having an issue, you press a support button, and the entire app gets loaded with this assistant, which happens to be running in a messaging ecosystem. So think about it as a messenger, which is largely coming to your rescue. And the first thing we want to display to you is of the spirit of an FAQ, which is a very pinpointed FAQ. So you got your intent because you're buying something and that failure is happening, and the product kind of identifies that, throws up a very relevant set of FAQs to you. It doesn't throw up a generic set that you have to traverse through. So the entire contextual FAQ system becomes very good at deflecting because you may want to read. Now it became a little bit more complicated as we went about and figured out whether we should put a step-by-step playbook there. We should put a very rich media setup whereby the how-to videos were there, good animations were there, or a good rich text which is actually using a lot more images and so forth with very clear pointers to what you may be doing wrong or what you need to take a look at. Maybe there's some setting that you need to change. All those guidances can be provided through this channel, which we call automated FAQ channel. If you go beyond that, and that's the next step in an ecosystem which we're designing from ground up, we said if the FAQs are not going to be able to solve a problem, then who can? And at that point in time, what we could do is we could now run a more contextual bot. Now, the bot journeys can then be figured out based on the kind of problems that companies are having. And if you take a very close look at all of the intents that actually form a large part of the ticket volume that gets generated in any company, I would bet that 4 to 5 intents would probably fall in the range of covering almost 80% of your top problems. And these intents definitely can have the sub intents as well. But when you zero in on top 3, 4 intents, now what you can do is you can really build very smart bots which write workflows that can help you through the journey if you have the right API integrations at the back end. So of course, you need some bit of engineering. You need to make sure that whatever systems you're hooking up with, you need to have some way, some conduits so that you can invoke an API. You can get that API to trigger. That API sends back a response. You use that response and make sure that a very dynamic setup is provided back to the customer. Now, this meant that we had stumbled upon somewhat of a smart way of addressing the resolution as far as possible, driven by the API ecosystem. So, if we have very fine granular APIs, we can actually take the journey forward. Let's, for example, you're looking for a payment option. And when you have done a payment, the payment doesn't reflect. A couple of options are there. Maybe we can show something on the screen. Maybe we can't handle that and we have to throw you into the messaging experience. We have shown you some of the FAQs. It still doesn't solve the problem. We go ahead and we fetch the current status based on the conversation or based on the API integration that is going on between the two systems. And maybe during this 2 minute interval or 3 minute interval, what has happened is when we refresh that API, we get the right confirmation and we are ready to show you that the entire transaction went through. With that in place, what we were now solving was a true end-to-end workflow that could not have been solved before. And the problem statement that everybody was going after was to make it more conversational, while the problem really rested on an ability of an organization to stitch together and produce these kind of APIs that they can provide these intent engines to wire back into. And from that point onwards, everybody started to work backwards. They said, okay, we can automate provided that we have got a good enough support from a standpoint of how these APIs can be integrated. APIs are available, they may not be public, they can't be interfaced, there's different request response that they have gone through, and that's where a lot of challenges companies were facing initially. But finally, if you take a very concerted effort across the organization, you will find that a lot of organizations that we worked with ended up, going through that entire, few irritants to finally land in a place where they're able to stitch together at least their top 3 4 intents, which kind of took a huge toll away from how they were trying to scale. Now what happens is whether it is after hours buying behavior, whether it is on the go, you need real help and you're stuck, and that workflow can be completely reset, like your password problem, your account lock problem in gaming. All of these different problems could be really taken care of without any human intervention. However, there's still going to be a lot more things that will need somebody else to kind of navigate along with you. And that's the positioning where since you've taken the huge load off, you still have a way to get very thorough specialists in play here. So the whole setup now changes. You have your initial different layers. One layer is trying to deflect the call based on a very DIY approach, which happens to be the FAQ system. The second layer happens to be a deeper integration, which is running all of the different bots end to end to make sure that those use cases are solved completely. And then the final funnel happens to be when it lands on the desk of a person. Now, the person can either engage with you on a live chat, can either engage with you on an asynchronous chat, or on a voice call. And even if whatever option you choose, these are very complex pieces that can largely be solved when a person is helping you through that journey. So when I take a look at this entire ecosystem and see how companies have gone about it, most of the companies who ended up being successful largely solved the problem from ground up. They never wanted to put a piecemeal solution in place, and that's been one of the huge difference in the outcome that they were able to drive. Now, there's still a lot more work has to be done to see how many or what is the different AI algorithm we would continue to use so that they can identify these intents on the go. So far, we have actually seen a lot more intents are done with churning of data over a period of 1 month or the last few weeks, but nothing as fast as if a storm hits and if airlines are going to be delayed, the first intent that needs to come up whenever somebody is trying to book an air flight ticket has to be that we are experiencing a lot of the problems. I know that your itinerary is set for this time. Here is a proactive help that we can offer you. But we are far away from it today, largely because of the fact that the industry isn't really gotten to the proactive phase more, as they are still sitting in the reactive bucket. But as we go ahead and solve it and reimagine this entire way of handling customer experience, we will probably get into that area where we are devising solutions and providing it not only in near real time using a bot, but also thinking about how we can take signals from the rest of the product ecosystem and provide that signal back to the user so that there's no sense in opening a ticket by itself. If you can solve the problem in the product workflows, even better. And how do you stitch the product journey and the customer support journey as one of the pillars in the product management at each one of these firms to then tackle it upfront will define how customer experience tries to become the differentiator truly for these winners. So with that, I'll just like to bring it back to a closure by re-emphasizing the fact that as you go about building your own customer support ecosystem, please take a look at the product, the platform, the customer that you're going after, the persona of those customers, the buying behavior, the way the transactions are done, and take a fresh look at how each component of your ecosystem is either ready or built in that manner. If it is not, then you might as well start to build everything in a way that kind of captures and encapsulates those things very clearly. You may want to take one solution, you may want to take another solution. It is going to be a blend of buy versus build, but take a look at what you have capabilities in house to build as far as what you can, and the rest of the things can be then leveraged to by the specialists who are in this space and who are offering you very packaged solutions. um, Good luck on that particular journey. But with that, I hope that the next level of transformation that happens in this space, that happens to make sure that the customer gets real time support on the channel that they prefer at the most relevant point in their journey using the most appropriate tools. If you can provide that, I think you will be definitely be on the cusp of making that connect with the customer and resolving all of the issues that actually your product is not able to solve, and making sure that at the end of the day the customer still walks away with a very very rich and very good and a very pleasing customer experience from your product. With that, I'd like to take thank again the sponsors here, and thanks a lot for listening to this conversation.
Thank you, Amit, for a compelling session. Certainly a lot to learn and take away from this. Conditioned to delightful experience, customers have become more demanding and less patient. They expect personalized interactions across all the touch points in the customer journey. To meet the changing and highly demanding customer expectations, businesses need to be nimbler, work faster, and shift to a consumer centric model, focusing on customer experience. Customers are now among the most significant differentiators, and the quality of experience delivered in the moment can help them stand out. One significant way companies can improve CX is through AI. Innovative customer self service tools, especially conversational AI, can help drive meaningful experiences for the customers. In the next session, we'll hear from Mr. Shiv Kumar, Customer Engineer Data Analytics Specialist, on what Google is doing in this space. Before that, ladies and gentlemen, a quick reminder to drop your questions in the chat box. Our guest speakers will take them up at the end of the sessions.
Hello, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I'm super excited to talk about this very interesting topic of conversational AI and how this is turning out to be a game changer for many of the organizations. So I'm Shiv Saxena, Customer Engineer Data Analytics Specialist at Google Cloud India. So I was listening to Amit, and he shared some of the very interesting facts in terms of how contact centers evolved over the last few decades and transitioned from offline to online to IVR, and then adding messaging-based support as well. And this transition was primarily focused on how to deal with increasing call volumes, optimizing staffing costs, and did not really help in solving customer experience related issues like providing real-time support or contextualizing the interactions with users, point-in-time resolutions, and so on. And those were some of the reasons, why companies started thinking in a direction where they can leverage the AI in the customer support ecosystem to streamline and improve customer experience, and that too at a scale. So in those lines, what I'm going to be covering in the next 40-45 minutes is to first talk about what conversational AI is all about and how these technologies are disrupting the contact center and helping organizations in providing delightful customer experience while keeping cost low. And then we will look at the conversational AI solutions, such as Contact Center AI, Dialogflow, that are available on the Google Cloud to help companies build state-of-the-art conversational interfaces very quickly. I will give you Dialogflow console walkthrough as well and show you how to build a multilingual virtual agent with a very quick demo. And I've also added a couple of videos on our contact center offering to help you understand how CCAI integrates in your existing tech landscape and addresses the challenges that companies typically face with their traditional contact center technologies. So with this agenda in mind, let's get started. So what is the conversational AI, or we call it conversational experiences? So a conversational experience is the descriptive or comprehensive name of a new class of solutions that include chatbot, conversational app, or it could be voice bot and many more. So now what is common denominator across these interfaces is the use of natural language understanding, NLU, which is again a type of artificial intelligence. So this is the NLU behind the conversational AI that helps translate human language into the computer language and vice versa. And NLU is very similar to natural language processing, or NLP, but it goes a step further to understand the conversation that it has not been trained to understand. So for example, errors or maybe spelling mistakes or accent or sentiments and so on. And NLU actually analyzes the data to determine its actual meaning or intents. And that is what makes it a great fit for building conversational interfaces that can power the interactions with human as against using traditional hard-coded script or tree-based solutions. So people have been trying to get computers to recognize their voice for a long time. In fact, in 1997, the software entered the market to help users dictate communications instead of typing them. But that was not a very pleasing experience. However, in the last few decades, the voice landscape has changed radically. So what is actually fueling the adoption of conversational AI? So we have the dedicated processing power that actually facilitated the smarter voice recognition algorithm. And then we have the increasing voice-enabled consumer devices like smartphone, smart home devices, cars, and TVs, providing ever-growing data set on which to train the recognition algorithm. And we have seen a lot of advancement in the space of AI ML, such as BERT, NLU, automatic speech recognition, speech-to-text, Dialogflow, and text-to-speech. And these AI technologies have made it possible to not just recognize the language, but to deduce the context build relationship, and improving quality of the experience. And that's the reason the conversational experience today is considered to be nearly human. And then fast, cheap, and reliable high-speed network have made it possible to offload the processing to the cloud, enabling rapid understanding of people's intent. So in fact, according to the markets, the global conversational AI market is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of almost 22% between 2020 and 2025. And no wonder, with these advances that you see on the screen, it is fairly easy to see why demand for this kind of technology is on the rise. So the conditions are perfect for contact centers to be disrupted by AI, not only to provide the better customer experience at a fraction of cost, but also to reduce the operating cost by developing virtual agents to reduce the majority of the contacts and 24/7. And at the same time, increasing revenue by higher ARPU by using AI to identify and capitalize on the upsells and cross-sell opportunities. And finally, we can expect to see improved CSAT and NPS score due to higher resolution rates and more accurate call dispositions and again lower wait times. So with that, let us look at how Google Cloud empowers organizations with conversational AI solutions to achieve all of these benefits. So when we talk about the conversational experiences, the Google has invested heavily in these areas, which you can see in the voice-enabled search on phones, or maybe a Google Assistant on home devices, voicemail transcription on phones, and video search on the YouTube. And these are just a few applications to name. And now these capabilities with the quality of voice understanding are available on Google Cloud in the solutions like STT, TTS, NLP, Dialogflow that companies can leverage to give voice to their IoT devices. I mean, it could be your car navigation system like your kiosk environment, smart watches, or to build virtual agent that can talk, understand, and interact. So what I'm going to be covering in this session today is primarily two services, which is the Dialogflow and the Contact Center AI. So Dialogflow is our virtual agent platform, which is capable of building chat or voice bot, leveraging multiple conversational AI technologies in one single package. And those technologies typically include STT, TTS, NLU, and so on. And this could be the entry point for most of the customers as they begin on this journey. And they can simply create an agent in the Dialogflow, and they can use it across the mobile apps or maybe websites or IVRs. CCAI that leverages the power of Dialogflow, plus it also provide additional capabilities to provide a human-like AI-powered contact center experience, lower the cost of your operation, and then free up your human agent's time. So let's dive deep into these technologies to understand how to get your conversational experience up and running quickly without too much of efforts. So I'm going to start with the Contact Center AI first. So CCAI has three components as part of the complete solution. So at the heart of Contact Center AI is the virtual agent powered by Dialogflow. And the virtual agent provides your customers with 24/7 access to immediate and personalized conversational self-service. It automates the basic interactions, and for the more complex issues, it hands off call to the human agent in real time. And as a result, the customers get answers faster, and your agents have more time to work on the other complex customer interactions of higher values. However, for many businesses, not everything a customer may call about can be automated, right? And there can still be some customer, right, who would want to speak to the human agents. Now, in those cases, the CCAI has Agent Assist that can help that can help to supercharge the agent and make them as effective as possible while listening into the conversation and providing agent the real-time information to help them out. And this helps in improving the agent's ability to handle the conversation quickly and accurately, leading to the reduced call time and increased customer satisfaction. And the third component is CCAI Insight, and pretty much very close to me being a data analytics specialist. So the Contact Center AI Insights focuses on how do we kind of take all the data that we are collecting from these interactions with our customers and then provide valuable insights such as what were the call drivers, the sentiment of the customer to better understand your customer interactions and improve call outcomes. So this is how the complete workflow looks like with CCAI. So starting from the left, the end user can connect to the contact center using multiple channels. It could be the telephony, it could be the media voice, it could be the mobile app, or it could be website. So we are talking about omnichannel experience here. So now user interact with the virtual agent that you see in the middle of the diagram. And then virtual agent can talk and understand the intent, integrate with the backend systems for the real-time fulfillment of user request. And in case of complex issues which require human agent intervention, the virtual agent hands off call to the human agent then. So you see at the bottom of diagram, when the human agent is talking to the user, the agent assist is helping human agent with all the FAQs and other relevant information to help him out. And at the top, the insight is providing complete visibility into the contact center operation with valuable insights. So let's see each of these components in a bit more detail, and I'm going to start with the Dialogflow first. So Dialogflow is a natural language understanding, or we call it NLU. So it's basically the NLU platform that makes it easy to design conversational interfaces, or we call them virtual agent, and integrate them into your mobile app, web applications, devices, bot, or maybe IVRs. And Dialogflow CX is primarily optimized for large enterprise use cases where you might have multiple different workflows, complex workflows that you would want to incorporate in a single virtual agent. So using Dialogflow, you can provide a new and emerging ways for your users to interact with your product, interact with your brand, and so on. Now, here are some of the core features that Dialogflow offers. And first one is the visual builder. So it's a very nice and intuitive GUI that makes it easy for not just the developers, but also for the conversational designers and the contact center managers to build the conversational flows. It reduces your development time nearly by 30% with interactive flow visualizations that can allow builders to quickly see, understand, edit, and share their work with other team members as well. Now think of a scenario like where you might have different teams working on different flows. So for example, if you are the e-commerce company, you may have a different team working on the order related solutions, right? And there could be a different team working on the return of item solutions, right? Now they can effectively work together by calling each other flow while having full control on their own flow that they are building in the Dialogflow CX. And this actually makes the collaboration really easy among the team members, and they can version their flows, they can work on their flows at their own pace. And then Dialogflow also supports 100+ languages that actually allows building multilingual agents to maximize the reach and provide better customer experience. So in fact, it supports multiple Indian regional languages as well. So whether we talk about Tamil or Telugu or Bengali or Marathi, Hindi, and many more. So this actually allows you to create a virtual agent that can provide personalized experiences to the user across different regions and parts of the country. And then it takes care of all your agent management needs as well. So which primarily includes your CI/CD or maybe analytics or experiment or bot evaluation and everything inside the Dialogflow environment. So you don't need any other custom software to be able to manage your virtual agent environment. And another very cool feature is the out-of-the-box analytics. And this gives you the ability to gain insights into agent performance and the customer engagements. So you can very easily access nice visuals to look into the number of sessions, the interactions, the session flow, and most common path taken by the users, and so many other things. And you could use these insights to further improve the performance of your agents. And for full experience, you can integrate your Dialogflow environment, your virtual agent with the IVR technologies as well. So if you are in the beginning of your journey and want to accelerate time to production, I would recommend that you explore the pre-built agents that Dialogflow offers, right? So Dialogflow comes with a library of pre-built agents, and those are specifically prepared for the common use cases. And these are production-ready agents for the industries like telco or maybe retail or financial services, travel, and many more. So if you are a car rental company, you would want to start with the car rental virtual agent, and this will allow your users to start a new car rental reservation. If you are into healthcare, then you would want to start with the healthcare pre-built agent, which will allow your users to check their claims, to check their benefits, find the doctors, and so on. And if you are in a retail business, then probably you can start with the retail pre-built agent, which will allow your end users to purchase item from your e-commerce website, or maybe return a product, or maybe track the order, or manage account settings such as loyalty points, addresses, password, and so on. So there could be plenty of use cases depending on the industry you are in, right? So you need to just pick any of the pre-built agent that is close to your business, your use case, and then you can customize it as per your requirement, as per your needs. So now before I switch to the demonstration and I show you the console walkthrough, it's really important to understand what are the typical terminologies that we use while building the virtual agent environment. So agent here is a virtual agent that handles the concurrent conversations with your end users. And it actually understands the nuances of the human languages and is very similar to your human call center agent. And then we have flow that actually define the conversational path. And the complex agent can have multiple flows as well, but if you are creating a simple virtual agent, you are good with a single flow as well. And then we have the pages which actually represent the state of a conversation. So in fact, a flow may have multiple pages, right? And at any point of time, there could be only a single page that remains active. And you can configure the pages to collect information from the end users that is needed to continue the conversation. And after each conversational turn, the page may transition to another page. And then we have the intents. So intents are the reason for the end users to interact with the agent, like checking your account balance or maybe booking flight, and then many more reasons, right? And each intent is basically defined by the training phrases that an end user may ask to the virtual agent. So for example, a user might ask for the account balance in a different way. So for example, I say, show me my account balance, or what is my account balance, or tell me my account balance. So all these are the training phrases for the intent, and we can call it account balance intent. And then there is a concept of entities and the parameters. So entities define the type of information you wish to collect from an end user. So like it could be the account number, right? So if your end user is inquiring about the account balance, then the virtual agent would want to collect information like account number, the date of birth, account name, and so on. And the parameters are the information supplied by the end users during the session. And then we have the fulfillment, which actually covers all type of prompts and the responses and the ability to call backend system APIs through the webhook service connections. And routes define the directions of your entire conversation within the virtual agent environment. Now, this is a different view of virtual agent infrastructure, right? And tells you what happens when you interact with a virtual agent powered by the Dialogflow. So starting at number 1, that's the expression. And this is something your end user will either say or type in the chat. Now, user input goes to the Dialogflow for intent matching. And this is where the natural language understanding capabilities of Dialogflow really shine. So our AI understand, and in a very meaningful way, what actually user is trying to say and why user is actually calling to the contact center. And once Dialogflow correctly detects the intent, it associates that with an action, and that is called a fulfillment. And this fulfillment is executed through a webhook request to a backend service APIs. So for example, account balance is stored in a database that you see, that you see here in the bottom right of the slide. And you have created a web API on top of it, which will allow external world to kind of retrieve the account balance from the backend database. Now, the Dialogflow using the terminology called webhook, it can hook into those specific APIs and can retrieve the account balance by invoking that API and then pass that information back to the end user, either over the voice or over the text. So to summarize, setting up the virtual agent requires configuration work and the integration on both sides. So with the end user interfaces on the left side and with the backend systems on the right side. And the most important part of the configuration is the conversation design that you perform within the Dialogflow environment. The beauty with Dialogflow is that you build your virtual agent once and you deploy it everywhere, like making it omnichannel implementation. So you can deploy it in your contact center or across the digital channels to provide consistent and great user experience, across the channel, including your web or maybe mobile or messenger, or with the telephony partners, right, such as Genesys, Avaya, and Cisco. So you create it once and you deploy it widely everywhere. All right, so so much of talking and slides so far. So let's get into a quick demo of Dialogflow and see Dialogflow in the action. So in a short demo, what I'm going to do here, I will create a simple shirt ordering virtual agent that will respond to the questions like where is the store address and what is the timing of the store. And then it will also ask a couple of parameters, couple of input parameters from the end users, before accepting orders from the customers. So that's a simple virtual agent that we are going to create in a short demo. So I'm right now on the Dialogflow console, and on the landing page, you can see multiple options. So we have an option to create a new virtual agent, and we have an option here to use the pre-built agent. So if I click over here, then here you will see a list of pre-built agents that I just spoke about. So depending on which virtual agent or pre-built agent is close to your use case and your business, you can simply select any of these virtual agents, and then you can import it in your own account, and then you can customize as per your requirement. However, in this demo, we are just going to create the new virtual agent. So I'm going to hit the create agent. And here I provide the name of my virtual agent. And here you can choose the location where you want to build and deploy your virtual agent. So you see the multiple locations, and you will find the India Mumbai location also here. So for now, I'm going to use the global location, and I'm not going to change the time zone or maybe the language, right? So you have the ability to pick and choose different languages for your virtual agent. So let's stay with the English language for now. And I go ahead and create the virtual agent. So it will take a moment to create my agent and bring me to the visual builder. And we are almost done here. So now I'm right now on the visual builder, and we will use this console to configure and design our virtual agent. So first thing is what I'm going to do is to change the default intent over here, right? So I'm going to start a flow that you see. This is the default flow. And I just click over here. I go to the default intent. And here I'm going to provide the welcome message. So I'm going to delete the standard messages that you see over here. And then I'll add the message that I want my virtual agent to show to the end user when any of the end user interacts with the virtual agent. So this is the very first welcome message to start with. So I'll add it and I save it. And I go back to my flow screen. Now, next thing what we are going to do is to create few intent over here. So first intent, I'll go to the manage, and here I click on the intent, and I'm going to create a store location intent. And here we specify the training phrases. So you could add training phrases one by one over here, or you have the ability to upload training phrases directly using your text or CSV file. So I click here, and I'm going to upload the training phrases directly from my laptop. And here I upload. So you see different training phrases are uploaded here, and these training phrases are typically where are you located, how do I get to your store, what is your store address, and so on. So I'm going to hit on the save. And now the next thing I'm going to do quickly is to create a page. So I go to the build screen and I hit on the page, and then I save it. And on this page, we are going to edit the fulfillment, right? So when someone is kind of on this page, then what the prompt will look like. So let me go ahead and paste here. Our store is located at this particular shop. This is the address of the store that we want our virtual agent to show to the end user. So let me edit and save it quickly. Now, next thing I'm going to do is to add that particular page that we just created called store location into my flow. So I'm going to hit start, and then here is the option to create route. And I simply choose the store location, and then I'm going to choose the page over here, that is the store location. And I'm going to save it. The moment I save it, you will see one more page has been added in the flow. So start, and then now we see store location. Now what I'm going to do is to quickly create one more intent here. And this time we are going to create the store hours. And I have a couple of training phrases, so I can simply specify the training phrases directly over here as against using the txt file upload. And I'll just mention one more training phrase. And we have two training phrases here for the intent called store.rs. So let me go ahead and save it. Now the next what I'm going to do is to create one more page called store hours. And so let me do that. And here we go. And I'm going to edit this store hours page. And here I'm going to provide the fulfillment response. So in this case, our agent will respond saying that store office hours are 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So I'm going to edit and I'm going to save it. And now let me go back to the main screen. Now, last thing I'm going to do here is to quickly add one more route here. And this is my option. So I'm going to choose the store hours. And then the transition page will be the, again, store hours. And let me go ahead and save it. Now, moment I do that, you will notice here that one more page is now added to my virtual agent flow. Now, after that, we are going to add one more page that is really interesting, and this page will actually capture the order from end user. But before we do that, the virtual agent would want to capture certain information and input from the end user. So in terms of the size of the t-shirt and the color of the shirt and so on. And for that, we need to first create the entity. So let me go ahead and create one entity quickly. And here I go, and I specify the size. And here I provide the different values here. So for example, small, and there could be synonym as well. So I can say little. I add one more value here, medium, and I can add synonym saying that average. Let's add one more value called large. And here I can specify maybe big. We are done with this step. Let me save it. And then go back to the flow builder. Now we are going to create one more intent called order new. So let me go to the manage and go to the intent screen. And here we have one more intent. And this time I'm again going to use a TXT file to upload the training phrases. So all my training phrases are uploaded here with respect to the related to the order intent. So you could see over here, I want to place an order, I want to buy an order, right? Order a t-shirt and so on. And you really don't need to provide very exhaustive and comprehensive list of training phrases, right? So Dialogflow will find out the list with the similar expressions automatically. So let me just close and go back to the flow one more time. And now I'm going to again click on the start and add one more route over here. And this time I'm going to choose the intent called order new that we just created. I'll go down and I'll choose the transition page. So let me create a new page here and I specify the name for the new order and let's save it. Now you would notice on the flow that one more page is added in this complete flow, right? So we can see now new order appearing over here. And now let me click here. And edit the fulfillment. And in this case, what we are going to show. Okay, let's start a new order. So I'll just edit and I'm going to save it. So we are pretty much done by adding the 3 different pages in our workflow. Now next is we are going to add one more page that will actually accept the input parameters from the end user, right? And before that, we need to create few parameters. So let me do that. I go ahead and hit on the parameters. And here I provide few parameters. So for example, color, and I map it with the system entity. So we will see one of the entity here. This is here. And in this case, the what agent will ask. So it will basically ask, what color would you like, right? So I'm going to add this and I'm going to save it. and then close it. I'm going to add one more parameter here, and this parameter is size. And I'm going to map it with the entity that we just created in the previous step. And what agent will prompt in this case is saying, what size do you want? And now we are pretty much done with this step. So let me save it and close it. Now let's go ahead and create the order confirmation page. So we are done with this page, and now let me edit the fulfillment here. And if you see, this page will provide a very dynamic response, right? So when agent respond back to the end user, it will incorporate the size and the parameter value, size and color value that it has accepted from the end user. So let me just edit, and I'm gonna save it. So we are done here. And now on the order page, I'm gonna create the route to add that particular page that we just created. But this time, this is going to be the conditional routing. So I'm gonna hit on the route, and I'm gonna add a condition here. So once user provides the size and color values, then agent will respond back saying that, hey, you have selected a particular size and color t-shirt, right? So this is a confirmation. And now we kind of save it. And in this case, my transition page will be the order confirmation. And now I can go ahead and save it. So you see one more page that has been added to the flow, and this is the order confirmation, right? You see the orange color line, which is indicating this is the conditional execution of flow. And now I am going to add one more flow here quickly before I move ahead. And this is again with the conditional flow. So I just add and I'm going to save it. So we are almost done. And the last thing that we have to do here is to kind of create a page to end the session. And this time my transition page will be the end session. So I go down and find out end session, and I simply save it. So we are pretty much done with our flow, and we have completely created this virtual agent, which typically has multiple pages over here: store location, store hours, new order, then order confirmation, and then end session. Now the Dialogflow CX also provides the built-in capabilities to test your agent, and it's a kind of simulator, right? So let me go ahead and make use of the test agent capability. And here we are going to test it. So let me start by typing the text. This is the welcome message that you see over here. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to type next sentence here. And this time, if you see, there is a lot of typo error here, right? So let's see what happens. So still the Dialogflow virtual agent has been able to infer the intent, right? And it is showing me the correct address, right? That our store is located at this particular location. Now let's make it a little bit more interesting and interact with the virtual agent using voice. Hi. Right, so here we go. What is your store location? Your operating hours, please. I want to buy a shirt. Yellow. medium size, and here flow comes to an end. Right, so it has picked up my order and it is kind of confirming back that you have selected a medium and yellow shirt, and you can pick your order after 1 to 3 working days from the address that it has already confirmed. So now let's make it a little bit more interesting by adding one more language to the virtual agent, and this time we are going to use the Hindi language. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit the agent setting, and here you will find a lot of options here to further kind of configure and tune your virtual agent. I'm going to use the language option. And here I'm going to pick the Hindi language. Here we go, and let's edit. And now I'm going to save it. Now for our virtual agent to understand the Hindi phrases, we will have to provide training phrases in the Hindi language. So I'm not going to rebuild the entire flow, but what I'm going to do is to kind of add the Hindi sentences here in the starting welcome intent and then the training phrases for the store location. So let me start with the welcome intent. So first I go ahead and change the language from here. And then I click on the welcome intent. And let me paste my welcome message here in the Hindi. So we are done with this step. Now let me close it. And next thing I'm going to do is to provide training phrases for store location intent, and for which I'll jump to the intent page, and here I'll see the store location, and I have my intents in Hindi in a text file that I'm going to upload directly from here. So here you can see the different phrases that I have uploaded. आप कहाँ स्थित हैं, मैं आपके स्टोर पर कैसे पहुंचूं, आपका पता क्या है, and so on, right? So I'm just going to save it. And let's go back to the flow. And what I'm going to do last is to update the fulfillment at the store location page. And now we are pretty much done with this one flow where the agent will understand our intent in the Hindi language. So let's give it a try. Namaste. Namaste. आपका स्टोर कहाँ पर है? आपके स्टोर का एड्रेस क्या है? मैं अपना ऑर्डर कहाँ से पिक करूं? एड्रेस तो बताइए. Now you would have noticed the training phrases that you see over here. I did not specify all of these training phrases while creating the intent. And that is where the power of Dialogflow and the ability of natural language understanding comes into play. So Dialogflow leverages the BERT-based advanced NLU capabilities that really shine and helps you achieve higher intent matching that we can see in this particular example, right? So that was a quick example of how to use the visual flow builder in the Dialogflow that can really help you create your virtual agents in a very quickly and with less efforts. So in fact, in this demo, I could only cover quite a few features. However, Dialogflow CX offers a tons of features and the functionalities. So I would encourage you to create your own Google account if you don't have one, and explore various cool features that Dialogflow offers. So with that, I'll switch back to my presentation. All right. So let's see the powerful features that Agent Assist offers and how it makes your agent superhero for the customers. So as I mentioned previously, the virtual agent has capability to hand off calls to human agent for handling complex issues. And when it happens, the call goes to the human agent And while human agent is talking to the customer, the agent assist continues to transcribe the call in real time. And agents can refer to it during the call, or the transcript can be used for analysis or maybe for QA purpose after the call as well. The agent assist also recommends the phrases used by high performing agent, and this actually improves the quality and consistency of the customer experience. And while on the live chat, it actually suggests the chat responses to the agent using the context of the conversation. And another very interesting feature is that it analyzes the utterances during a conversation between human agent and the end user to determine the sentiment, whether the call was kind of positive or it was negative. And during the conversation, the agent assist surface up the FAQs and the useful contents to solve the customer problems really quickly. And this actually reduces the customer wait time and thereby providing more accurate information to the customers. Otherwise, you know, in the traditional setup, when you ask a complex question, the call is generally put on hold for several minutes, and that is something very frustrating. And at the end, the agent assist provide a conversation summary to the agents with information like situation, what was the situation, why end user was calling to the contact center, what was the action taken, what was the outcome of that call, right? So all of these things you will get as a conversation summary at the end of the call. So these all are the differentiating capabilities that can actually transform the customer experience and help improve overall customer satisfaction. So I'm going to play a short video here to demonstrate the capabilities of CCAI virtual agent and the agent assist that I just talked about. So in this video, a customer is calling to return a pair of running shoes to eBay. And here customer is Mala, and she interacts with the CCAI virtual agent. So the few things that you would want to notice in this video, like the quality of conversation, which is just like a human, and then the ability to understand the Mala's intent, and then how virtual agent hands off call to the human agent at the right time. And then how agent assist helps human agent in fulfilling the customer needs instantly. So let's watch this quick video.
Hello Mala, I'm an automated agent. Welcome back to eBay. It looks like we just delivered you white Pamarca size 6 running shoes on June 25th. Are you calling about this order?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, how can I help you with that order?
Unfortunately, they don't fit, so I need to return them.
I can help you with that. I am starting a return for you. You will be receiving an email with the details of your return.
Cool, thanks.
Mala conversed with a virtual agent that understood Mala's intent to return her shoes and automatically fulfilled it. But now Mala needs another, better-fitting pair of shoes. The virtual agent will detect this and will offer to connect Mala to a live agent.
One more thing, would you like me to connect you to an eBay fashion expert to help find you the right shoes?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Mala now wants to purchase a pair of shoes. Google Contact Center AI recognizes this intent and works with Genesis predictive routing to find the best agent to help. Genesis predicts that Josh, among all qualified agents, is the best matching fashion expert to help Mala at this moment. Mala's call is routed to Josh, including all previous context about Mala's order and her conversation with the virtual agent.
Hello there, Mala. My name is Josh. I'd be happy to help you find the right.
The transcript of Mala's conversation with a virtual agent is visible to Josh, and her conversation with Josh is also transcribed and interpreted in real time. As Josh and Mala are speaking, Agent Assist interprets the audio and builds context on the meaning and the intent of the conversation. This allows Agent Assist to find relevant answers and articles to help Josh in real time.
I definitely recommend tennis shoes since they're designed to have the right support, grip, and to avoid an injury. What type of court will you be playing on?
It will be primarily hard court.
And is Pamarca your brand of preference, or would you like to explore other brands?
I like Pamarca shoes.
Agent Assist detected in real time that another knowledge base page contains the right content for Mala's request and made it available to Josh.
All right. I just searched eBay for you for hard court tennis shoes, women's size 6, and I found a great listing. Would you like me to text it to you, or would you rather receive it via email?
Could you text it?
Certainly. Thanks for choosing eBay.
You would have also noticed CCAI integration with the telephony providers such as Genesis to provide end-to-end automation and provide better experience throughout the engagement lifecycle. Next is the CCAI Insights, which is about enabling your contact center management team to help understand why what customers are saying so that they can make those data-driven business outcome decisions and increase the operational efficiency. So CCAI Insights gives you a view of entire activity across the contact center in the near real time. And these insights can answer to some of the important and valuable questions from the different personas in the organization. So first thing the CCAI Insights does is the topic modeling, which is about organizing conversational data into various topics to figure out why customers are reaching out to the contact center. And it is the start of nearly all the analysis for contact center data today. And then your call center manager can analyze agent performance and figure out the coaching opportunities. Your conversation architect can get to know which conversation topic they should implement to improve the customer experience and also to reduce the call getting transferred to the human agent. Your operation team can get to know the call driver trends and whether human or the virtual agent are performing as expected or not. And you can easily export CCAI Insight data and use Google BigQuery and BI tool to perform the broad analytics in conjunction with other data sets in the organizations. So in a nutshell, data is one of the greatest assets of modern era, and Insight is the tool to help you make most of it. Now let me play one more short video here on the CCAI capabilities.
Hi, Prisha. Thanks for calling our bank. How can I help?
Hi, I'd like to pay my bill.
Great. Can you please verify your address?
15 State Street. Oh, and how much is it?
Virtual Agent provides immediate, conversational support with customers directing the flow.
You owe $150. Do you want to pay with the account ending in 1337?
Yes, please.
Done. I've sent an email confirmation. Is there anything else?
Virtual Agent can take care of basic fulfillment on the spot.
Yes, actually, there's a $35 charge I don't recognize.
From last week? It looks like it's an overdraft fee.
Oh, that's not fair. I didn't know.
Okay, let me transfer you to a specialist to help.
More complex cases are seamlessly handed off to a human agent.
Hi, Prisha. I'm Elliot. I see you're concerned about the overdraft fee.
Yeah, I didn't know I would get charged.
Okay, I can waive the fee this time, but would you like overdraft protection so it doesn't happen again?
Agent Assist listens in, giving real-time, step-by-step guidance.
Yes, please.
Okay, I've set it up. Is there anything else?
No, this was great. Thanks a lot.
Lastly, Insights gives you real-time visibility into key call drivers and sentiment.
So in this video, you would have noticed the ability of virtual agent to provide dynamic and immediate response to the user when a question on the bill amount was asked. And when virtual agent handed off call to the specialist, a transcript of conversation between user and the virtual agent was visible to the human agent immediately. And this helps human agent avoiding repeat questions and reduce the call handling time. And lastly, the sentiment of customer and the analytical insights on the interactions data. So just to summarize, revolution is happening in the conversational AI, and these technologies coupled with the security and the flexibility of the cloud are driving a new era in the customer services. So while conversational AI is still in the early days, it is important for organizations to start experimenting with the conversational computing now to help you adjust to this new era. Some of the questions that might help you determine how conversational AI will impact your businesses could be like, how can I improve the customer satisfaction without driving up the cost? What interactions can I automate while providing the same or better level of customer satisfaction? How should I enhance my digital channels and provide similar experience across the multiple touchpoints? How can I maximize reach with multilingual conversation interfaces? How can I improve the customer experience throughout the engagement journey? So if you are looking for answers to these questions, then you have the conversational AI technologies like Contact Center AI or Dialogflow on the Google Cloud to help you. So with that, thank you very much for your time and attention. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Shiv. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to answer all your questions. We'll pick the most pertinent questions as the time allows. Now it's time for the Q&A. Thank you, Shiv, for the wonderful content. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to answer all your questions. As committed, now we'll pick questions from all of you and we'll put all these questions for our speakers. So are you ready, Amit and Shiv, for the Q&A round?
Absolutely, Annie.
Sure. So let's take one by one. Our first question is for Amit. Does the customer experience strategy change when targeting customers from tier 2 and tier 3 cities?
It all depends. Of course, the kind of questions are going to be a little bit different as compared to, the pain points that different demographics may have. But if you take a look at, problem statements, for example, in logistics, if it happens to be where's my shipment, it is largely going to be presented in different forms, but the question construct kind of remains the same. There can be very different problem statements coming in from people staying in smaller places, where they may want to reschedule. They don't know how to do it as seamlessly as a person living in a tier one would. But the basic construct may remain the same. And I think that's what you would notice, that it all depends upon the nature of the product. Whenever someone is using conversational AI, they are using it either from a support function or making a product purchase decision. In both of these scenarios, the questions and the constructs are more or less in the same framework. It may happen that the nuances could be different.
Sure. Next question is for Shiv. How can conversational AI work on real estate domain with omnichannel flow?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Annie. And I would say that, more or less technology aspect remains same, right? Irrespective of business domain, we are trying to build the conversational AI interfaces, right? So if we talk about the real estate, right, again, some of the key questions need to be answered before we get into this journey. Like who are our target audience, right? What are the channels that we want to integrate with the virtual agent or the conversational interfaces that we are trying to build, right? Especially the region and the geography that we are going to target, right? So, for example, if we know that our targeting area could be the specific state, we would want to look at the regional language, right, of that particular state, right? So these are some of the aspects, and more importantly, is the identifying the right intent and the training phrases, right, which are more suitable to the audience and to the end users of their respective geography, right? So these things that we need to take into account, but the technology more or less remains same, the concept remains same, right? You figure out the channels to be integrated, you figure out your target audience, you figure out the use case that you are trying to build, right? And then you get to the Dialogflow CX, for example, you design your conversation flow, right? And then you also figure out what kind of fulfillment that you want to provide to your end users, right? So for example, there could be certain requirement which may require virtual agent to talk to the backend applications as well. That could be your billing system, that could be your CRM system as well, right? So those integrations need to be built. So to answer your question, the technology aspect remains same. It is only a matter of, how do we kind of chalk down the entire use case and what are the different nitty-gritty from the business use case perspective that we need to take into account.
Sure. Next question is for Amit. What were the key drivers and use cases that led to the adoption of AI-enabled chatbot in your customer care ecosystem?
I think the biggest use case happens to be you want a very point in time interaction, whatever the time of the day is, right? And you can't staff any kind of customer support facility with people to take care of that. That's number one. Number two happens to be the scale. As more and more people are hopping online, they will have a lot more transactions going through those channels. And once you have these transactions, even with a 0.1% purchase error rate, there is going to be a lot more requests coming through the funnel as compared to what it used to be in the earlier days. So the number of people by itself, it becomes a scaling problem, and most of the companies are struggling to see how we can provide a 24/7 support when a person needs it, because I may not require to be put on hold for 30 minutes just to speak to a customer representative. I may be working on something else. Can I use AI use a messaging application, drop my problem. There comes a bot, serves a couple of questions, then figures it out in the background, provides me an alert or a notification that something has been, they found out some cause, and it's a very asynchronous way in which we deal. Even in our lives, we are kind of dependent on a lot of these, stops and starts in our conversations. So I think that's what the conversational AI started to model out. It started to take a look at how would you don't need to be 100% focused on making sure that some of those things are getting addressed. Some of the other cases may require you to stop everything and get that point in time support. And for that, I think those are the very few use cases for which your conversational AI or any chatbot system should filter through. It should make sure that those intents and sub-intents are getting pushed to a real live agent who can support it. Right now, most of the people haven't got that filtration capability perfected. So that's the problem when a lot of different use cases and queries hand on to a customer contact center, which could be really very easily automated. So I think the skill is largely to figure out where all flows can be really step-by-step flows that can really automate it, and where all you really need a point-in-time help from a real-life person.
Okay. Next question is on Dialogflow. We'll pass this question to you, Shiv. There's one more addition of Dialogflow, that is Dialogflow ES. How is this different from Dialogflow CX, and how do we decide which one is right fit for our use case?
Yeah, that's a good question. In fact, I could not talk about Dialogflow ES in my presentation. So Dialogflow comes in two variants basically. One is the Dialogflow ES, which is the essential, and second is the Dialogflow CX, which is the customer experience, and this is much more advanced. So Dialogflow ES is the older version of the Dialogflow, right? And then now we have the latest version in the form of Dialogflow CX. Now, where the Dialogflow ES is kind of, I would say, well suited is for the small to medium complex use cases. Like, for example, you are building a chatbot where you want to just pop up the FAQs to the end user, right? Or you want to capture some basic information and want to pass on to the backend system, right? So these are simple flows and does not require multiple flows to be integrated in your virtual agent environment. So for those small and early stage use cases, it would be a good idea to try and start with the Dialogflow ES. However, if your use case require multiple flows to be kind of combined in a single virtual agent, right, the complexity is really high, then in those cases, I would recommend that the organization should look for the Dialogflow CX, right, because that specifically has been designed to solve these large scale use cases. And just to give you an example, like if there is a banking customer, right, and they are trying to build a virtual agent or a chatbot environment where the multiple processes need to be integrated, right? So one process could be the account opening process, right? And there is a separate business team who is owning this process. The second flow could be the kind of talking about the product and services that bank is offering to the end consumer, right? Third could be the complaint resolution function, right? That could be a separate team who is managing this function, right? So there could be three different teams who can very efficiently own their own flow, right? They can work in a parallel development environment, and eventually they can integrate everything in a single virtual environment, virtual agent environment that we create in the Dialogflow CX. So for these sort of complex use cases, it is always good to kind of start with the Dialogflow CX, and moreover, it brings with a very nice and intuitive GUI as well, the visual builder, and that can really help organizations to save their development time by at least 30%, right? So there are a good number of reasons to consider Dialogflow CX when you are starting your conversational AI journey.
Okay. We have one more question on Dialogflow, and I would request you, Shiv, to please answer that also. Can you tell us about case studies and the benefits companies have been able to achieve with tools like Dialogflow?
Yeah, that's really awesome question, and thanks for asking this, because I could not talk about the customer success story, in my presentation because of limited time actually. So yeah, so when we talk about the adoption of conversational AI and the technologies like CCAI and Dialogflow, the adoption is really on the rise, right? And Amit also provided really some good insights. Companies are really looking at providing great customer experience, and not only the customer experience, but also to achieve higher operational efficiency from the organization perspective as well, right? And that's where the conversational AI really shine, right? And Amit just spoke about, and he made a very good point, like in terms of the reachability of a brand to the customer, right? It should be reachable all the time and from any of the channel, right? So multi-channel, multilingual availability, 24 by 7, all of these things really add to the customer experience, right?
And that's where the organizations have started leveraging these conversational AI technology to be able to provide better customer experience. We have a huge list of customers, right, who are already on the journey of implementing these solutions in their customer care landscape. But again, if I just give you a couple of examples, so one of the I would say mutual fund investment company in the India, right? So they build a conversational AI interface for their investor, and they again built this interface using the Dialogflow, and they integrated this solution with the Android app, right? That the native Android app that they have built. Now, by integrating this solution with the Android, allowed them to expand reach of their market, right? Reach of their brand to the millions of customers, because the Android market share is really high in the India when we talk about, right, the adoption of different mobile OS. So this actually allowed them to expand their reach, to the major part of the country. And this really made their investor life really, really simpler, because now when investor has to interact with their virtual agent, right, the investor simply start by saying, "Hey Google, let's start investment," right? And that's where the conversation flow start, right? So their investor can very simply, they purchase the mutual fund. They can, review the portfolio. They can withdraw money from their portfolio. A lot of things that they can start using, by just, passing the voice interactions to the virtual agent. And now the company is aiming to kind of bring at least 40% investment using the same conversational AI platform going forward, right? So that's the kind of benefit organizations are kind of reaping. The other good example, if I talk about, which is again in line of the scalability and all other factor, is the leading bank in the India, and they again build the AI enabled virtual agent to provide the banking services to their customer. So by kind of nearly achieving 100% accuracy, with their virtual agent, again powered by the Dialogflow, in terms of responding the customer queries, they were able to boost their customer satisfaction by 25%, right? And from a scalability perspective, they were able to scale their virtual banking by more than 2x, right? Because technology can scale easily. They are not dependent on the human agent, which need to go through a long training period, right? And the attrition, a lot of other factors which actually affect the contact center operation. But technology can really shine and scale, right? When we talk about the scalability. And now they are aiming that, by 2025, they are aiming to reduce their call center operational cost by nearly 50%, right? So if you think of the benefit, right, it's a multitude of benefit. One is the scalability, second is the better customer experience, third is the achieving higher operational efficiency by reducing and optimizing cost of their call center operation. So there are quite I would say, long list of customer success stories, but again, in the interest of time, I'll just limit with these two.
Yeah, I'm sure, given the time we have covered many case studies. Next question, I'll pass on to Amit. What challenges have you encountered while building and implementing virtual agents?
Yeah, so most of the time, what happens is, I think it has to do with the fact that your internal APIs are not completely set up. Because if you want to take the journey of making sure that a conversational bot experience becomes as real as possible, you need to dip into your internal API structures to make sure you're able to take out information as and when you need it. For example, when you are figuring out, where is your shipment, if you are not able to figure that out within your API, whether it happens to be a return case, whether it happens to be a forward journey case, and what is really happening to that shipment, where exactly it has reached, then it doesn't add a lot of value. That's one thing. And the second thing is, it becomes a very mundane experience, even from a standpoint of a customer, because they could have actually seen some of this information on a web form or on a website or web page. So you have to take each and every use case and observe it very closely to say, how are you going to make sure that from an end-to-end perspective, it kind of helps the customer in getting the kind of information that they needed for that particular use case in totality. And in order to make sure that that happens, you may have to work very closely with your backend teams to figure out that these kind of APIs need to be exposed to the bot structures so that they can take the output of the API and make some decisions from that point onwards. Now, those decisions are going to then make sure that the path that the conversational AI takes is a very different path. Right. Most of the times, you can inject a lot more intelligence into the system basis certain things that are going on. For example, your payment transaction is going on and it has failed because of 100 different reasons. And you can inject a lot more intelligence at every step of the way. If you realize that it is actually held on the partner bank,
then you can have a very different response. If you know that it is going to be retried after 30 minutes, it's going to be a very different response. If it happens that there's an issue with the checkout, and figure if that can be resolved at that point as well. So it all depends how much power you are giving into your integrations, which are backend integrations into your entire API structure, and how much of that information can then be surfaced to the user through this bot interface. I think that really is the most challenging thing that I've seen in my experience with most of the conversational AI implementations.
I'm sure our audience will take away many learnings from the challenges which you have shared, the challenges which you have encountered. Next question we have is, what skills are required to build virtual agents, chatbot, and how much time does it typically take? This one is for Shiv.
Yeah, so as I covered as part of my presentation, the Dialogflow CX comes with a very intuitive interface, right? We call it Visual Builder, and that actually makes it really easier not only for the developer but also for the conversation flow designer, even for the contact center manager to easily create and design the virtual agent flow, right? But again, this just requires sort of getting your hands dirty, being familiar with the Dialogflow interface and the different features and functionality that it offers, right? However, the entire virtual agent environment is not just limited to the creating your conversation flow, right? That also goes left and right as well, right? On the left side, you would have seen in this slide, this has to integrate with your end user interfaces, right? So whether you want to integrate with the IVR, you want to integrate with the website, or you want to integrate with the mobile app, right? And that's where a bit of development is required, right? So someone is integrating virtual agent with the Android app, for example. So the development skills to be able to leverage the Android SDK has to be there, right? So the bit of skills and the development, skills are required to be able to leverage the different SDK software development kit that Dialogflow offers, right? Similarly, on the right-hand side, when we talk about, when it comes to the fulfilling end-user requirement, the Dialogflow has to integrate with the backend API ecosystem, right? And those API need to be built and developed right well in advance to be able, for Dialogflow to hook into those APIs. So that's the additional development. But typically, there is a separate team who takes care of building those APIs in the application landscape. So I think that's the only thing, right? So important thing is that you can very easily design the virtual flow and the conversational flow in the Dialogflow CX environment. It is just a matter of practicing things out. But again, you need to keep in mind that there is additional development from the interface integration and the backend integration perspective that may require additional skill to be able to build the complete environment.
Sure. One more question for you. What are the best practices to be followed while designing conversational interface or voice agent?
Yeah, that's a good thing. In fact, Amit also shared some of the learning here. So I would more or less talk about from a technology perspective, right? So when we talk about the best practices, there are quite a lot best practices, right? And we can group them into three categories, right? First is that how do we kind of use the service, or how do we use the Dialogflow? And that's where we talk about some of the best practices in terms of how to perform the load testing of your virtual agent, how to kind of securely integrate Dialogflow APIs with your end user interfaces. So, for example, your mobile app and your website and so on, right? So, a lot of best practices fall in this area, right? The second category of best practices are related to the general design, right? So, for example, what should be the naming convention of your intent, right? Because in the Dialogflow CX, you can create the reusable intent. You create them once, and you can use them at multiple places, right? So reusability of intent, right? So there are certain best practices to be followed. What are the guidance or certain best practices to be followed when it comes to the creating training phrases, right? Because the accuracy and the quality of your, your virtual agent heavily relies on the training phrases that you are going to create, right? And associate with the intents. So those are, and there are so many other practices, best practices that I am sure I cannot cover everything here. But especially when we talk about creating the voice agent, right? There are additional best practices that we should keep in mind, right, when organizations are creating a sort of virtual agent or creating conversational interface, right? So the goal here is to help users to achieve a task without escalating to a human agent, right? So your virtual agent, your voice agent should be able to handle most of the, most of the interactions, right? And there should be the minimum calls that are flowing back to the human agent, right? And when user is interacting with the voice agent, they should feel like that, having a natural, interactive, and cooperative conversation with the voice agent. So, and there are certain best practices in order to create a voice agent to meet these expectations, right, and provide a good experience to the end user as well. If I talk about a couple of best practices, so when you are creating your welcome intent, right, this should be ideally short and very straight, to bring to the point very, very quickly, right? So one good example, hey, I am the ordering voice agent. How can I help you? So very simple to start with. Or similarly, if you're designing the questions, right, those questions should be really, really actionable, right? So for example, rather than asking, do you know your travel dates? So it would be better idea to ask, when are you traveling? Because if you are asking, do you know your travel dates? The answer would be most likely yes and no, right? And this will add to one more turn in the overall conversation flow, right? So better question would be to ask, when are you traveling? So that you get the answer in terms of the dates or in terms of the day, right? So there are quite a lot best practices that need, we should follow. I would highly encourage to look at the documentation of Dialogflow CX. There is a specific section where all these best practices have been articulated, very nicely explained, and that will really help you to bring state-of-art virtual agent in the Dialogflow CX.
Sure. Next question, I'll toss it to Amit. What best practices and recommendations would you like to share for the companies starting their journey of conversational AI?
Yeah, I think start small. That's always the best advice that I give to people. Start small. Do not go super ambitious. Go step by step. Figure out first the kind of use cases. And it's very easy to do that. If you take a look at all of the different support tickets that are being generated in your company, you would see a very different 80-20 rule. So most of the tickets can be bucketed into top level intents. Now, these top level intents, you can then go after them and see which ones of these sub intents can actually be completely automated. And the different ways of doing that. You don't need to necessarily get fully into, as I said, end-to-end API led bot interaction. You can start with the first step, which is your FAQ deflection. If you can get a lot of rich media in there, whereby people can be educated on how to do this, and how to's are mostly very very easy to solve, because a step by step direction. You can do a video, you can do a rich message, you can do text with pointers, or you can ask multiple questions and then pinpoint a certain FAQ based on the need of that particular user. So there's a lot of scope of personalization. There's a lot of scope of addressing it in a very, very minute way to a particular person. Allow them to actually elaborate on what kind of a problem they're having using guided rails. So when you talk about intents and sub-intents, what you're basically saying is choose something so that I can guide you further. And that's much more easy for people to do rather than starting with a very, very wide canvas whereby you can say anything. Instead of saying anything, you should allow them to focus on some of those areas, because a lot of these use cases can be bucketed into such intents. In gaming, for example, account lock happens to assume 40% of the total number of tickets that are all the time generated, right? Similarly in healthcare, similarly in retail, similarly in logistics, a lot of these domains have got a 40% or 30% weight to a certain type of issue that you would be encountering. So instead of solving it for the entire 100%, I think we should go small, take a look at some place where it can really, really create a very, very good impact, so that you can then share it with your other stakeholders. You can build a full narrative around the ROI, what kind of customer experience you're able to build at very, very fast pace without a lot of involvement from people, and then take the next step forward.
Sure. The major learning for all of you, that please start with small, go slow. Okay. The next question is for Shiv. How should I start the journey of building a conversational interface for my business? What are the steps involved?
Yeah, so you are absolutely right in saying this is a journey, right? And it has to start small and it will evolve over a period of time to address more and more business requirement. I would say the first and foremost thing is to identify the right use case, right? And a very strong use case also, so that it has greater impact on the organization, right? We have seen many conversational experiences in the project getting failed because there was no strong business use case to justify the investment, from the time and cost perspective. So first and really important thing is to identify and nail down right use case that you are trying to pick, right. Now, once you do that, and when we talk about the technology journey, right? So you go to the Dialogflow, right, and there you find out a pre-built agent, and those pre-built agents. So if any of the agent which is close to your business, which is close to your requirement, just pick import any of those pre-built agents. So this can really help you accelerate your production time, because a lot of work is already done over there, right? You just need to kind of customize as per your requirement, right? Third, I would say once you do that, right, it's important again to list down all your intent and the training phases that you want to incorporate in your virtual agent environment for your specific use case. Then go ahead and design your conversation flow using the visual builder that we just talked about. And if you're planning to integrate with your IVR or maybe other interfaces, so you will have to enable those settings as well. For example, IVR, right? You need to think through, are you really looking for the advanced IVR settings, right? So for example, DTMF, or for example, a bargain feature, or for example, a speech timeout feature, right? So those things we need to assess and evaluate from the end user requirement perspective, right? And what are channel that you want to integrate. And then you finally test it. So Dialogflow CX gives you a very nice simulator that allows you to kind of perform the multi-turn testing to be able to gauge the performance and the efficacy of your virtual agent before you put it in the production environment. Now, once you deploy, right, it's really important that how do we evolve from there, right? Because it's a journey, right? So you would want to keep adding more and more use cases to your virtual agent environment, right? And that's where the built-in analytical capability of Dialogflow CX really shines, because you will get to know how your virtual agent is performing, right? How many sessions are going on, how many interactions are going on, which is the most common path taken by the end users, right? And this gives ability to ability to the organizations to add more use cases, more flows, or optimize the flows and so on, right? And finally, since it's a journey, like you would want to do a rapid development, you would want to release more features in a very fast space manner, right? So you would want to leverage the CI/CD functionality of the Dialogflow CX as well, so that the multiple teams who are working in the environment, they can version their flow, they can version their chatbot environment, and they should be able to kind of make small releases really faster to meet the growing business requirement.
Sure. We are running out of time, ladies and gentlemen. So I'll pick one last question, and that is, what resources and training are available to learn building virtual agents on Google Cloud? Over to you, Shiv.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I would say if you are in the early stage and you are just starting your journey, I would encourage that you visit the Google Cloud Skill Boost website, and there you will find a lot of list of very good courses, and these are very nicely structured short duration courses, maybe a few hours only. And there you will not only learn about the concept, so you can simply go to the catalog and search for the conversational AI, or maybe building a conversational interface with Dialogflow, or maybe contact center AI offering, right? You will get a complete list of different courses which are available. And each course will help you understand the concept and the nitty-gritty of different terminologies that we use here, and also the hands-on lab, right? So there are some quick labs which will allow you to get your hands dirty and be familiar with the Dialogflow CX working environment, right? How do you create flows? What's the meaning of intent, training phrase, and all of these things. So I would encourage that could be a really good starting point for someone who are just starting their journey, and more or less, and on top of that, there is a nice video series available on the YouTube as well. There again, you can watch those YouTube videos to better understand the the feature functionality of the different services in the conversational AI space, and you will also get very nice demo over there, right? And at the last, there is a very comprehensive documentation that is available. So if you really want to go deeper from the implementation perspective, you want to understand nitty-gritty of each and every feature, then I would recommend you look at the documentation as well. So these are the primary resources. But again, attending those kind of trainings and maybe online courses with hands-on lab will really help you get started faster.
Sure. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you got answers to all your questions. Thank you to our esteemed speakers, Amit and Shiv, for your insightful content and your valuable time. Thank you to our audience for being interactive and patient. And finally, thanks to Google Cloud for this collaboration. Ladies and gentlemen, keep following ETCIO for all the latest updates and upcoming events. Take care and stay safe.